What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, SleeperGP. Today I'm going to give you a quick review and general strategy of each of the 9 starter decks that you get from PTCG Live. These decks are awesome and they give new players a great stepping stone into the game and can build from each of these decks and build even more competitive meta decks. Be on the lookout as I'm going to create a single video for each deck showing you more detail on how to play the deck and also how to upgrade it to make it a little bit more meta. But for this video, I'm just going to give you guys a general strategy as well as a quick tier list on which of these decks are the easiest to learn. So now let's get straight into the video. First deck we're going to talk about is Zacian and Zamazenta. This deck is a really good deck to start because it's a very simple strategy, and all you're really doing is trying to build up Zacian and Zamazenta to attack. And Zacian just hits really hard, while Zamazenta is more of the walling Pokemon. Zacian hits for 230 with its Brave Blade ability, and then it also has Intrepid Sword. It allows you to not only draw 3 cards, but any metal energies you get from your hand from those 3 cards, you can immediately attach to Zacian V. It does end your turn, but it's a nice turn 1, or even a turn that you know you're not going to get an attack off. You could just draw 3 cards and end your turn. Zamazenta V has an ability called Dauntless Shield, where if you're playing against a VMAX deck, you can put Zamazenta out into the active to wall VMAXs. It prevents all damage from VMAX decks, which is really good in a VMAX heavy meta. And also its assault tackle does 130 and also knocks off a special energy off your opponent's active Pokemon, which in a meta where there's a decent amount of special energy, it could be good. Next deck we're going to be talking about is Blissey V. Blissey V has an attack called Blissful Blast, where it does 30 more damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. And if we do any damage with that attack, we can attach up to 3 energy cards from our discard pile to this Pokemon. So we're mainly playing a lot of support cards that throw energy into our discard pile, and then we just use Blissful Blast to attach them straight onto our Blissey at the end of the turn after attacking. On top of that, in order to keep our Blissey kind of healed up and ready to go, we use cards such as Hyper Potion and Suspicious Food Tin to keep healing Blissey and keep building that energy until eventually we can get big knockouts on Pokemon and have so much energy that we just KO anything in sight. So that is the main strategy of Blissey. Just heal, build up damage, and take KOs. Alright guys, so the main strategy of the Decidueye deck is you want to be able to get this Decidueye out as fast as possible. Decidueye is a stage 2 grass type with 140 HP, and its ability Deep Forest Camo is prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon B and Pokemon GX. So that is what you mainly want to do. You want to get this out as fast as possible and start walling your opponent's Pokemon V and GX. In some decks, they'd have no answer to this Decidueye, so they'll just automatically scoop, or you automatically win the game by taking slow knockouts with Splitting Arrow doing 90 and then 20 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So it could be a very good strategy, and you can get very easy KOs, and you can it's very easy to get these Decidueyes up when you play cards such as Snorlax. Snorlax with this Gourmandize ability allows you to draw cards until you have 7 cards in your hand, but it does end your turn. So starting with the Snorlax can be a very good way of building your hand to get the cards that you need to get that Decidueye up and going. And then on top of that, we're playing a heavy Drizzle Sobble line with Drizzle using its Shady Dealings ability, allowing us to look for trainer cards. So if we have a Rowlet out that's ready to evolve and we have a Decidueye in our hand, we can go ahead and use Drizzle to get Rare Candy to get the Decidueye up and going, and then we just start walling with Decidueye from there. The next deck we're going to be talking about is the Inteleon VMAX deck. Inteleon VMAX is a nice water type VMAX with 320 HP, and it has 2 attacks. Its first attack is a little bit of a disruption attack with Hydro Snipe doing 60 damage. You can put 1 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand, and then the main attack that we want to be using is using that Max Bullet doing 160 damage, and then we can also do 60 damage to one of our opponent's bench Pokemon. So the main strategy of this deck is that we want to quickly get Inteleon online and quickly get that max bullet doing 160, and then sniping our opponent's bench for additional damage on the bench for 60. So that damage can quickly add up, because doing 60 can quickly bring us into KO range of other VMAXs, or we can even kill small things on their bench, such as Sables and other little Pokemon that may be sitting on our opponent's bench. To do that quickly, we have a Frostmoth engine with its Ice Dance ability. As often as we like during our turn, we may attach water energy cards from our hand to one of our benched water Pokemon. So getting a Frostmoth online allows us to get that Inteleon attack up and running fairly quickly. Next deck we're going to be talking about is Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is a fighting type VMAX with 330 HP, and its main strategy is to be using that Gmax Rapid Flow to be able to snipe as much as we can. Gmax Rapid Flow does 120 damage to 2 of our opponent's Pokemon. Any Pokemon, doesn't matter if they're on the bench or on active, just does not matter. We can Rapid Flow, but we need to be careful because we discard all our energy from the Pokemon when we use this attack. It also has an attack called Gale Thrust, where if we move it from the bench to the active, it does 150 damage. The next deck we're going to be talking about is Rapid Strike Malamar. Rapid Strike Malamar has an attack called Rapid Strike Tentacles, where we reveal any number of Rapid Strike cards from our hand. Then it does 40 damage for each card we revealed in this way, and we shuffle those cards back into our deck. This deck revolves around holding a lot of Rapid Strike cards in your hand and then striking with Rapid Strike Tentacles when the time is right to take one-hit KO knockouts. So this is a nice little single prize deck that can sometimes take wins just because we prize race a lot of our opponents who are playing VMAX decks. So this is a nice little deck to get going, and it's also fairly cheap. I've already done an extensive review of how to play this deck and also how to upgrade it, so go ahead and check out that video because it shows you in depth how to play the deck. The next deck we're going to be talking about is Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. This deck uses its main engine in Single Strike Houndoom. With its Single Strike Roar, it allows you to accelerate Single Strike energy from the deck straight onto your Single Strike Pokemon. So what we want to do is we want to set up as many of these Houndooms as possible so we have a lot of energy acceleration on our board, and then accelerate energy to our attackers as quickly as possible, possibly taking one-hit KO knockouts if we can. The next deck that we're going to be talking about is Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. So now this deck uses Shadow Rider Calyrex's VMAX ability in Underworld Door. Once during your turn, you may attach a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your bench Psychic Pokemon. And if you do, you draw 2 cards. So this card wants to just spam a ton of energy on board as quickly as possible so that Max Geist is doing an extremely amount of damage quickly as possible. Right, Max Geist does 30 more damage for each Psychic Energy attached to all your Pokemon. We also have a couple more Pokemon that help out with that. We have Galarian Articuno with this Cruel Charge. When we play this Pokemon from our hand, we can attach up to 2 Psychic Energy cards from our hand to the Pokemon. On top of that, the deck plays 4 Cresselia, mainly for that Crescent Glow ability, where if we go second and it's our first turn, we can search up to 3 Psychic Energies and attach them to one of our Pokemon. Again, this can quickly get our Shadow Riders online as fast as possible. So that is the main strategy of Shadow Rider Calyrex. We want to just vomit energy onto the board and do as much damage as possible. The next deck we're going to be talking about that you get from PTCG Live is Suicune V. Suicune V is a nice little basic attacker with its Blizzard Rando attack. It does 20 more damage for each benched Pokemon. So this is both yours and your opponent's. So this attacker takes advantage of the fact that our current meta plays big, wide boards. So let's say your opponent has a full bench and you have a full bench. This thing is doing 220 damage for 2 energies, which is an insane amount. It also has a nice little ability in Fleet-Footed where once during a turn, if this Pokemon is in the active, we can draw an extra card. So that can help us fairly quickly. So now 220 isn't too bad, but what really pushes this deck over the edge is the fact that we include a 4-3-3 Ludicolo line. Now Ludicolo, with its enthusiastic dance, when we evolve our Pokemon, basically any of our basic Pokemon do 100 more damage. So now that Suicune is doing 320 damage and KOing a lot of VMAXs if both our benches are full, which is an insane amount of damage to be doing. So yeah, the main strategy is fill your bench as much as possible and swing with Suicune as hard as possible using Ludicolo to boost that damage even further. Alright guys, so here is my tier list from easiest to learn to hardest to learn from the 9 starter decks. First we have Blissey, simple strategy of attaching energy and attacking and recovering. So this is why it's number 1. Second we have Zacian Zamazenta. Again, another very basic strategy. We're using metal saucers to attach to your metal Pokemon and then just swinging with your metal Pokemon when possible. Third, we have Shadow Rider, another basic strategy where you're just using psychic energies to accelerate onto the board and then drawing more cards and then hitting heavy damage with Shadow Rider. Fourth deck is Decidueye and Inteleon. Decidueye's main strategy is just to get Decidueye up and wall. You can get easy wins with a lot of decks because a lot of decks probably don't play answer to Decidueye, so sometimes you'll get a free win on the ladder because of that. After that, we have Inteleon VMAX. Uses Frosmoth to accelerate energy to the Inteleon VMAX, and then just use 160, then 60 snipe to set up KOs for later or take out small things. So very basic strategy. Next, we have Single Strike. Very simple strategy, but the complexities come with knowing what to accelerate and at what times to accelerate to. So that is why this deck is a little bit lower on the easier to learn list. Then we have Rapid Strike. Rapid Strike has its complexities in knowing when to Gale Thrust and knowing when to Rapid Flow. Those you need to really conserve your resources with Rapid Strike, which is where it comes the complexity of. Then we have Suicune V. Suicune V is rather simple, but its complexities come with knowing when to evolve Ludicolo so that you can do max damage and sequencing, so you have the best possible answers to get Ludicolo when you need to, and also making sure you have the correct Inteleons, like in using shading dealings correctly. So that's where the complexities come with Suicune V, which is why it's lower on this tier list. Finally, we have Rapid Strike Malamar. Rapid Strike Malamar is probably the hardest deck to learn on here because, again, you have to learn how to sequence very well with deck because you need to draw big hands in order to take big one-hit KO knockouts. So it might not be the easiest deck to learn for new players, but it's probably the most meta-viable deck on this list just because it is a single prizer. So if you put a lot of work into it, out of these 9 decks and you really upgrade Rapid Strike Malamar, you can go ahead and take this to a tournament and do decently well just because it's a very powerful current meta deck. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that review of the 9 starter decks that you get from PTCG Live. Tell me in the comment section down below, what is your favorite starter deck of the 9 from PTCG Live? If you want to see some more PTCG content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Hope you guys have a good day and peace.